One thing, just in general, for F1, you're not going to lose your status, so I think all of you probably understand that. And before I go into some detail about the whole situation and, what you need to take, what actions you need to take, what options you may have, it's the wrong station. So, first, and I think this is going to be pretty much a refresher for all of you, because most of you may know a lot of this, but still, just for the sake of time, just to be thorough, I want to go over some basics for F1 students, OPT and things like that. So, just some basic things about OPT, because a lot of you are graduating eventually, you'll be applying for your OPT. What OPT is basically optional practical training, which you do. There's post-completion optional practical training, and there's pre-completion optional practical training. And basically, your OPT would have to be in relation to your course of studies. So if you studied, for example, business administration, you're not going to be working as a dentist. Or if you're going to be studying computer science, you should be doing your work in an IT-related job. So that's one thing about OPT, and there is a rule that you should maintain employment for 90 days at least. You can't be unemployed for up to 90 days when you get your OPT. So that's just one basic thing. And you'll need to decide if you're going to do pre-completion OPT or post-completion OPT. And one thing to understand is you can only apply for OPT once at every graduate level. So if you graduate at a bachelor's degree and you complete that, you get your OPT for 12 months. If you try another bachelor's degree program, you're not going to get another 12 months of OPT. You'll have to basically take the master's level, and then from there you can actually get a fresh 12 months of OPT. So again, these are just some really basic preliminary things before we get into the meat of the topic. And also another thing is, for those who may want to apply for pre-completion OPT, you can do that if there's a special need for it. And basically, you can work during the school year off campus 20 hours during the school week. During the school year, you can work 20 hours a week during school session. And during off sessions, like summer, you can take 40 hours per week. But you have to have special permission, and then there has to be a certain base. And basically, every 2 months you spend on pre-completion OPT, it will take away 1 month of post-completion OPT. Yes?
Sorry, is it CPT you're talking about?
No, I will talk about CPT also. CPT works very differently, actually. So just trying to cover some bases before we go into that topic as well. But we'll talk about CPT, of course, because I think that's pertinent to most of you, or many of you. So that's how that works. And also, students who graduate from science, technology, engineering, or math, they're eligible for another initially get 12 months, but then you can actually apply for another 24 months of additional OPT. So this used to be 17 months, but sometime this year they actually extended that in May, that the rule came out to extend it to 24 months. So with OPT, even if you are from a university that does not have accreditation, you can still actually qualify for your initial OPT. So that's one thing that, even if you're graduating from a program and the accreditation is lost, you still can apply for your 12 months of OPT. And also, but what about the 24-month STEM extension, which I think many of you may be interested in if you're studying science, technology, engineering, or math. So basically, if you're from a school that only had accreditation from ACICS, the Accrediting Council of Independent Colleges and Schools, they lost their Department of Education recognition on December 12th. And they did try something called there's a temporary restraining order to basically allow them to continue to keep their accreditation, recognition from the Department of Education. So they were not successful in the temporary restraining order. So the next step from that is they're seeking what's called an injunction. So there's a motion that they applied for with the district court. So basically, the Department of Education is a federal agency, and they regulate all of the accrediting agencies. And so they determined that ACICS was not following proper guidelines in terms of granting accreditation to universities, and there's various universities. Some of these include NPU, SVU, and there's a longer list, but those are the two most popular schools that are known to have been impacted by this. There's a full list. We can share that with you if you want. If you're interested, I can email that to you. But basically, they're going to file this, they have filed this motion for a preliminary hearing, and that's going to be heard on February 1st of 2017. So this is going to cause, obviously, a lot of uncertainty, because I can't really speak about the chances that they'll have at successfully winning the motion for a preliminary injunction. Although, what the CICS has said on their website is that the merits of the Department of Education's claims are not really reasonable, they're flawed, and they're potentially unlawful. Now, I just learned about this towards mid-late last week. So I had a pretty busy weekend. As you can imagine, it's a holiday weekend. So I tried to spend as much time as I could under the circumstances to understand the situation and just share with you my perspective in general as well, and just my advice. And I just also have to just kind of disclaim here that no attorney-client relationship is basically established based on the information here, but it's for informational purposes so that you may have some guidance and one opinion about how you may want to proceed in your particular situation. So basically, again, just to recap, the ACICS is not recognized by the Department of Education at this point. And their claims, they're going to be reviewed in the department, in the federal court. And so right now, the loss that happened since the 12th is still in effect. Accreditation is now lost. So there's other ancillary topics that are relevant to this, such as the master's cap. So there's questions about, what if I get a master's degree from a school that was accredited and that lost their accreditation? Is that going to be, affected? And actually it will, unless, and I will get into the unless, but basically as things currently stand, if you graduate from a program that at the time of graduation it was not accredited, it was not basically accredited by a recognized accrediting agency, then it's not going to allow you to apply for the master's cap. In our experience this year, master's cap actually was a big deal because, we had regular cap cases, master cap cases. From our perspective, we filed a high volume of H1s at our firm, and roughly something a little bit less than or roughly 40% of regular cap cases were selected, which does not, give you a lot of confidence. But master's cap cases, we saw probably like 60 to 70% of master's cap cases getting selected. So obviously, that's a motivation for many people. Some people, I understand, they've applied for H1, they didn't get selected the other year, they went to one of these universities that had been impacted, hoping to get their master's and get a better chance. But now right now, if you're graduating from a program that's not accredited, the master's cap, you're not going to be able to apply for it, even if you get a master's program, a master's degree from a program that's not yet not accredited. And right now, the accreditation is lost. Another thing is, so we talked about the master's cap. Another thing I want to cover is the degree that you obtain from a school if it's not accredited for H-1B purposes and I-140 sponsorship purposes, which our firm has a lot of experience with. I've been doing this for 8.5 years, so I've seen how USCIS treats cases, and there have been cases where we've seen the candidate try to use a degree from a non-accredited school. And the way the USCIS treats this is in H-1Bs, sometimes you can actually get away with it, but for the most part, it's generally not going to be considered a valid degree. So H-1B is a sponsorship where you're basically working in an occupation that requires a degree in a specialty field. So if you got a degree, but the program you got it from was not accredited, then what happens is you're not going to be basically able to use that to qualify for H-1B. You'll have to rely on your foreign degree if you have a foreign degree. So that's one thing. And same thing goes for the I-140, especially the I-140. They're extremely strict at the I-140 green card sponsorship stage. So a GC sponsorship, there's no way a degree that you obtain from a non-accredited school is going to be valid. And even if accreditation is obtained after you graduate, the fact that you graduate from a program that didn't have accreditation at the time of graduation is going to negatively impact the I-140 or H-1B. So I know a lot of this sounds a bit negative here, but there is some positive that I will try to explain here. But, like I said, master's program, master's cap, you're not going to benefit from that. The H1, the I-140, if you graduate without an accredited degree, it's going to be a problem. But what are they trying to do to resolve this problem? What's actually happened? So, basically, as I mentioned from the beginning, the accreditation is no longer, there for the ACICS. And they are trying to do this temporary restraining order. Sorry, not temporary restraining order. They're trying to do a injunction, and that's going to happen on February 1st. So they're reassuring people very strongly on their website saying, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. But the thing is, nobody really knows if, per se, they are going to be successful in this. So what are the repercussions? This is the main point why you're here. You want to know what the repercussions are. So now I'm going to get into that. And so the repercussion is this. What CBIS has indicated is, first of all, just because you lose accreditation, it does not mean that you're losing your F1 status. That's what I said at the beginning, so I just want to repeat that. You're not losing your F1 status. However, the universities that have lost this accreditation, if they're only accredited by ACICS, then they have no accreditation at all, and what they need to do is basically find some other accrediting body so that they can basically continue on being CBIS approved. So the SEBP basically says that they have 18 months. So for example, NPU. By the way, how many people are here are students at NPU? Okay. And so it looks like the vast majority from NPU. What about SVU? Okay, so basically that kind of covers everybody, NPU and SVU for the most part. Is anyone from a school other than those two?
Other than NPU and SVU.
Okay. So anyhow, NPU and SVU, just to give context to it, that's why I asked, they are going to have to basically look for, there's two ways they can kind of solve their problem. One is they can look for another accrediting agency that's recognized by the Department of Education. And, the way you can tell if it's recognized, generally if you go on the accrediting body's website, they'll tell you if they're recognized by the Department of Education. So these universities have to find an accrediting body that is going to be recognized by the Department of Education in a substitute to ACICS. If they can't do that, then they're basically resting upon ACICS being successful in their attempt to regain certification by the Department of Education. So the thing is, they seem to be somewhat confident that they can regain that, but honestly, no one wants to live with uncertainty, and uncertainty is obviously something that causes lots of anxiety. And, in that situation, you need to protect your interests, and, you could do a number of things. So basically, what you could do is, let me phrase this by saying this. What are your interests? If you're interested only in, let's just say you have CPT. I know some of you, and you mentioned you're on CPT. or perhaps pursuing it. So if you're on CPT, basically you're not going to lose that CPT. You're still going to continue on. The school will continue to be CVIS recognized for this 18-month period. So they're not going to lose that, and you can continue your CPT. And if you're fine with only getting 12 months of OPT and continuing on CPT, then there's lots of accreditation because you're still going to be able to keep your CPT. You're still going to be able to get your OPT after you graduate. Now, if you're not looking for H-1B and I-140 benefits through the degree you obtain, it's also not a big deal because you're going to probably use another pre-existing degree you may have gotten somewhere else. So if you're fine with all that and you don't mind not having a valuable degree in terms of H-1B or I-140 purposes, and not having a degree that's going to get you the STEM extension, but you are fine with getting your 12 months of OPT, and you are fine with your, just continue on CPT, that's all your interests are, then you can just continue here. You shouldn't have a problem because you have an 18-month window to basically, the school has an 18-month window of being still valid. So that's the situation there. But if you are interested, obviously, in getting your degree to help you with your H-1 sponsorship, giving you an I-1, maybe master's cap, or you're interested in an I-140 and having that degree be relevant to your I-140, then what I would recommend is that, well, you can do one of two things. You can wait, and you can see if by February 1st the TRO is going to be, I keep mixing them up, the injunction is going to be a success. If the injunction is successful, it's not the end of the process. They still have to successfully overturn that. So, but if they do get the injunction, that's a good sign. So you could wait until February 1st and do nothing and just see what happens. Or if you want to be a little bit more proactive, if you're a little bit more skeptical, I'm generally a skeptical in situations like this, you may want to consider trying to transfer to another program so that you protect your benefit of getting a degree that's going to be valuable for your H-1B, for your I-140, and getting the STEM extension. So that's the approach. It depends on what as I mentioned, it depends on what you're interested in. It depends on what matters to you, and it depends on if you're willing to accept a little bit of risk as well. So I think that kind of covers everything. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has an 800 has a number, not an 800 number, and an email. So if you want to also follow up with Immigration Customs Enforcement, you can shoot them an email or contact them as well with your questions. So their number is 703.
This December, okay, 60% people, yeah, and okay, so rest of them are still in their program, still in access. Okay, so yeah, go to the questions.
Actually, I was thinking about. I've done 2 semesters in NPU, but so you think it's a good idea or that I should wait, or should I wait for the February? There's another option for me. I can take a semester break and wait for the February injection order, or I could transfer. I've already applied to another university, but as I've done 2 semesters, they're not accepting any credits from our college.
So you have this is a bachelor's degree you're pursuing or master's?
No, master's.
Master's degree, okay. And like I mentioned earlier, the purpose of this master's degree, is it to continue and have CPT employment, or is it also because you want to get a benefit in H1 cap?
Yeah.
Master's cap, you're more interested in that.
Yeah.
So, if you're able to take that 1 month break, taking a, temporary 1 semester break, and see, how the dust settles, you may want to do that. And if they're not successful, obviously, then you've got to make a hasty action to go to another program. That would probably be best for you. That's just my opinion.
That's best other than transferring right now?
If you can transfer right now, you may as well. Because if you want to get on with your studies, then I think that is something you should do, because why waste time, staying here and studying. So,
yeah. If I transfer right now, I would not waste any time.
Exactly.
But I would lose my money.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask, what is the
Well, like I said, I just learned about this. For the Department of Education to take something away, and some of the wording that I read that was against this ACIC, it seemed pretty strong words about why they were not given, why this was taken away. So it seems like, when a federal agency takes action, USCIS especially included, it's very hard to make them kind of overturn. Like even if you look at USCIS appeals, if you look up appeals like the Administrative Office appeals, there's about 5 times as many denials as approvals. So with the government, when they give something and when they take back, it's very hard for them to really, be able to overturn it. But the thing is, I don't know the full story about why it was taken away. And that, is going to be argued on February 1st.
Actually, our college is saying that they're not showing the results of the scholarship money that the government is giving them to give to the students. They're not showing any records of where they spent the money. That's the main cause.
Yeah, so that's been definitely
the potential.
It's very adverse to them and their image. So I don't know if it's really a winning cause. But if there's a representative from ACICS here, they'll probably try to build your confidence and say everything's going to be perfectly fine. The schools will. You should also talk to your DSO in the school and what they plan to do, whether it's NPU or ITU, because I haven't spoken to anyone at NPU or SVU yet at their international office, but I assume some of you probably have. Are they pursuing anything in terms of an alternate accrediting agency? Does anyone know if they're pursuing that, or have they voiced that opinion?
Yes, sir. We have got a message from them like they are trying for accreditation from some other agency, and they also said us that we can apply OPT extension till May 2018. So they are saying that there is no problem for us for applying. That people who have finished their things in the December and August, they can apply for OPT extension, STEM extension. They are saying like that.
For the 18 months as well? For that 18-month window?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the 24 months extension as well.
Okay.
So, and one more thing is, I have seen we can apply H1 in the master's cap quota if our university is accredited at the time of our degree which has been awarded. So, is that true? Like, if it is the case, then we can go for a master cap without any problem.
And checked and
on December 12th, but there is no thing like it is effective immediately. So, and they have gone to court and they have got the denial from the court on 21st of December. So, will that be effective after 21st of December, or it will be into implementation or from the 12th itself?
Well, what happened on the 21st was their request for restraining order was denied, but the actual loss of accreditation was in effect as of the 12th. Yeah.
So we finished our masters on 18th
of December.
19th.
19th December.
Let me correct him. I just wanted to add not cutting him. So 12th December, I spoke to the higher. So I spoke to the higher authorities of NPO. Okay, and they gave me an information that on 12th we don't have an accreditation after that. Okay, on 19th everybody is graduating, no matter he completed before or after 12th. So on 19th he will be calculated as a December graduate. So at 19th we are not having any accreditation. But and that to add on to that, 18 months extension period is given to us. Okay, and what benefits does that 18 months have? They don't know. First point.
Yeah.
And second point is that if you are applying for OPT extension within this 18 months, DHS or Department of Education of US says that if this 18 months extension period, if it falls under within 18 months extension period, they are 90% are allowing people to give that. Means they can apply, students can apply. But approval rate is again depends on various reasons. One of the main reason may be that we are not aggregated with the college. And college, it's not just one college. We have, correct me if I'm wrong, 760 colleges across US have the same. I have few of the names if you want, and then I can share it in the group also. And most importantly, it's not just us, it's around 100,000 graduates, okay, and 60,000 plus undergrads are being affected because of this. Okay, and no government authority or anyone have any clarity on this, because they said around past 40 or 50 years it didn't happen in any case, and nobody knows what action to be taken. When I spoke to the higher authority of NP, I don't want to take the name, apologize for that, but he says that A6 is one of the event which we have, one of the main element which we have to have while we are applying for H1 or the extension or the OPT. So students who are graduating in 19th will be affected and coming under this 18 months grace period. But this 18 months grace period, what does they have and what does they don't have? They don't have any clarity on this. And when I personally asked them, this is my personal question. I'm speaking on behalf of everyone till. This is my personal questions to him, stating that if we don't have an accreditation, what you're going to do? Whom you're going to ask? There should be someone who will be answering this question. He don't have a proper answer. If I go and ask a janitor in the college also, he will say the same thing. Why should I need to take an appointment and go sit and talk, spend my time and ask him these questions?
So you're talking about the school officials.
Yes.
Right? And so there is a link, I can share it with everybody, but this is from ICE itself. And ICE has spoken about this ACICS loss of accreditation. And what they're saying is this 18 months, basically, specifically, I'm looking at it right now, their guidance to students is this. Non-immigrant students who must take action are 1, those who are participating in an ESL program accredited by ACICS, and students attending an ACICS accrediting school who wish to participate in STEM OPT in the future. So this is exactly what you're talking about. Very important to listen to this, and I will read this paragraph from ICE itself so that it's very clear to everybody. What they've said is, all students attending schools accredited by ACICS should communicate with their designated school officials to learn if their school intends to become accredited by another accrediting agency. In addition, it is also always a good practice for students to ensure their school's plans to maintain its SEVP certification. If the school does not plan to maintain its SEVP certification, students, this is important, students must make plans to transfer within the next 18 months to another SEVP certified school. Just for If the school does not plan to maintain its SEVP certification, students must make plans to transfer within the next 18 months to another SEVP certified school in the part of the United States. So it's very, very clear, but it seems to be indicating that if, they're not going to have this SEVP certification, accreditation, yes, after the 18 months.
What about the before or within 18 months?
Well, it says students who must take action are students who intend and wish to participate in the OPT STEM extension in the future. So it's a bit conflicting here.
Exactly. So I went to the official sites and got that certificate. But I don't have any clarity. So I mailed the universities and I don't know whom to mail. I asked, we are applying for our OPT in Texas.
Yes.
As far as the NPU guys are concerned. I don't know about SV, I'm sorry. But when I asked them, I asked them that we are applying OPT in Texas. Why don't we have someone over there? There should be someone who can answer us. Or as Department of Education, we can contact someone official who can speak on this. At least give us a clarity. What about, that's the main point of mine, sir, that if we have this base pay, what all is applicable, what is not? Can I apply for OPT? Can I go for H1? Can I go for OPT extension? If any one of the, even if they are going, this is another point, completely other point. If they are going and for an accreditation with any of these, only 2 accreditations we have, which is, just a minute. Other than it is South Association of Colleges and School Commission of College, which is SACSCOC, and other one is WAS, Senior College Colleges and University Commission. These 2 are officially authorized to give accreditation for any college which are in masters with STEM association. Okay, these can give us. So when I'm going and asking any particular people or any official maid, I'm giving them and asking them that I'm so and so, I'm a master's student, I completed my master's on 19th of December and my college accreditation is lost on 12th of December. How badly will I be affected? Will that affect my OPT extension, or anything as such? I got no replies. And we should have someone, I'm going through a channel, sir. I'm approaching my teachers, dean, and then the higher authority of officials of my college, then you, and the next step I don't know. Seriously.
Well, when I'm looking at USCIS decisions on these type of cases, again, there are in the past, like this situation hasn't exactly happened. It's a new situation, so even in schools, the DSOs, attorneys, we're not 100% sure how the future is going to hold. And one thing, though, we can look at past decisions and past cases, and when people have graduated from programs that lost accreditation midway through, and they graduated with a degree from a school that was not accredited, what I'm seeing in those particular cases, in my experience, is that they're not considered valid for H1 purposes. They're not considered valid for you finished a degree that's going to get you an H1B, you finished a degree that's going to get you master's cap, or all that stuff. So I think it's a gray area in a way, because you probably completed the actual coursework before. Did you complete the coursework before the 12th?
Yes.
In all cases?
No, but we finish the coursework before 12th, but it will be.
That's what I said, sir. We all completed before or after 12th or December.
It's some before, some after.
Yeah.
So the hardline rule probably would be then
19th
actual graduation
yes,
date.
19th of
Yeah,
December.
I mean that makes more sense. So that's likely to be the case. And so what I've seen in previous cases that have worked like this is that they don't recognize those degrees for the H1 and I-140 purpose.
Are you talking about the individual colleges? Or are you talking about the accreditation who have an official accreditation with the Department of Education of this?
About the actual loss of accreditation for the school itself. Not the accrediting body. This is not happening very often.
Exactly.
This is a very rare situation. That the whole body itself falls apart.
Exactly, sir. So, if to my knowledge...
But it shouldn't work the same way. It doesn't make sense why it wouldn't work the same way.
No, sir. There's a difference. If I'm to my knowledge, I research very bit. I know a very bit. Correct me if I'm wrong. But 60 years back happened the same thing. There's another. I don't remember the actual name. But this happened. But at that point of government took the responsibility of each and every student. It's just not the international students being affected, it's just the locals also being affected.
Right.
To add on to that, our college will be there, but it will not be considered as an international college. And to add on to that, there is a conflict again. They are still allowing us at the college to give an F1 I-20.
Yes, they're allowed to continue the
Exactly.
F1.
So if they are giving an F1, it's just a matter of education. That's it. After education, if they want a CPT, or CPT is fine within the college.
Just to clarify, though, I have confirmed, and what we have seen here is that your I-20 is going to be valid. You're going to be able to get your initial OPT, but the concern here is the STEM extension.
Exactly.
That's basically all there is to it, right?
Yes.
And so, because this is such a murky area, the best those who already graduated, just apply for it when you get the chance and wait for USCIS to give further guidance on this. And you can defer to ICE, you can follow up with them, and I'll do that too. I'll call them, and I'll share it with you guys. I guess you have a listserv or something where you exchange information, and I can drop some information there, what I find if I contact ICE. They're going to give further clarity on this. This is just happened. So, it really depends. And this is the federal agency, and they can actually decide how to treat these situations. So, have they given 100% clarity? Not quite. There's some humanitarian issue here, obviously, because, it's leaving a lot of people in the dark. So, they're not always the most fair or reasonable, but sometimes they are. And, the things, like I said, that I know is when you do graduate, if it's not accredited, it might not be, probably not going to be useful for H1 or I-140 purposes. But still, the question that, we walk away from today that we might not have a complete clear answer is the STEM extension. I can't say for sure if they're going to allow it, and it's such a gray area, it's so borderline that, we need to wait for them to give further clarity, and it is going to be given. USCIS is eventually going to give clarity on this issue. So for people in your situation who graduated, consider it an unresolved issue at this point, but it should be resolved in a reasonable manner of time. I can't speak for USCIS, but I think that, generally in my experience, they do resolve these issues. So, yeah, I think that.
Question. Hello. Yeah. So my question is, so OPT is still okay, and OPT extension is in dilemma. But how about H1B? If they, after next year or next to next year, if all these students want to convert their status to H1B, still, will they still fall under master's quota when going for H1B? And so if they still fall in that master's quota, is there any chances in the future, like first year or second year of once they get a H1B approval, so first year or second year of H1B, is there any chance of getting revoked, H1B revoked, because the university lost its accreditation?
Well, I don't see revocation happening for those who already got the degree, but for those who got the degree and they're applying for H1B based on a degree from a program that was not accredited, then it shouldn't be accepted, because I've seen in other cases that USCIS does say if your degree was not obtained from a program that was accredited at that time, then you can't really, anyone can, just basically create a program and it's not accredited, and they have to have some standard on that. So that's basically how they're going to treat it. It's not going to be considered a valid degree for the H1 purpose.
So the main difference is the reservation. The main difference is the reservation part which we get in. Is that what you're talking about, sir?
Reservation?
Yes, we have a category. Okay, for the general purpose, we have an H1.
Master's category.
Yes, master's category. So if a guy like us who's putting on an H1, so we will be considered as a general category. That's what you meant?
Yes. Maybe if the USCIS does kind of give some kind of waffle on this, you might find out, but if you have no clarity on this, then you should not assume, because you could be out with just filing something that will automatically get rejected. And they're very strict on it.
So people have completed their masters in August, they can go for master cap as of now.
It should be, because it was accredited at the time.
Then, so will there be any consideration like you finish your masters on 19 and it go at 12? So is there any chance of consideration if we appeal to do that? So it's a period of week in which we can lose all the things and all. So can we appeal for consideration and all? Is there any chance like that?
I would say it's not. It's going to be too risky unless they actually tell you clearly that we're making an exception here. You can't make assumptions.
So if they deny, if they say that people have completed their masters in December, they cannot go for H1. So is there any chance for appealing them or leaving them like we have finished it on 19 and it's been done on 12. So it ruined our 1.5 years of full of efforts and all. So is there any chance like appealing them?
I don't think it would be.
Okay.
So if we need a clarity on this, whom should we approach? Department of Education?
So I can give you the number for ICE. See that again, so you can talk to SCBP.
703-60.
I'll repeat it slowly. Their number is 70, and they do invite people to contact them if they're in this particular situation. So 703-603-3400, or their email is, because I'm sure they're going to be getting a lot of calls. Email is sevp@ice.dhs.gov.
I have one question.
Yes.
What are the alternate ways after the completion of 1 year OPT? Now the accreditation is not there.
Yes.
What are the alternate ways we need to maintain the status?
After your OPT?
Yeah. After the 1 year OPT, what we have to do to maintain our status in India?
Well, if you don't get into the H1, you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, you could go to another program. There are programs that do offer CPT also during the school year if you want to pursue that. But it's the same thing that we've always had, you know.
So you said that we cannot get OPT after doing the same course in any other university. So after completing that with the CPT, completing the second course, can we go to the master's cap?
You can complete a if you complete a bachelor's degree and then you do a master's after, then you get another OPT.
No, not asking about OPT now. So we'll do the same master's course in any other university which offers level CPT. After completing that course, can we go and apply H1 now on the master's cap now?
On the master's cap?
After completing the second degree.
Second degree? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Status up? I can't really hear you too clearly. There's a lot of talking in the background, so people could just let one person speak at a time.
Yeah, my question is, like now that I finished my master's, I received my OPT. Let's say if I continue on OPT for a year, then I realize that the STEM extension won't be possible. Now I decided to do my master's again. What do you think my visa status? Should I be applying for F1 again or?
Oh, okay, so you had OPT 1 year and then you want to continue. So basically you have to get your I-20 and then it would just continue with studies. So you can basically be on the same CVIS record with a new program after your OPT is finished. You can start your study again. You don't have to do any visa application or anything. You just have to.
So in spite of being on OPT, I can still apply for I-20.
You'll still be on F1, and basically you would need to get an I-20 within the grace period. After your OPT is done, you have a 60-day grace period. During that grace period, you need to get a new I-20 and then start another program. Or before the grace period as well. I mean, it's up to you. People can cut their OPT short, they go to another program. But basically, you have up to 60 days from your graduation, from your OPT completion, to go to another program.
The students who are graduated on August, what are the chances for OPT extension and H1B, I-140?
So if you completed an OPT, you completed a program that was accredited, then there shouldn't be a question about getting your, it shouldn't be retroactive, meaning that the thing that happened on December 12th is going to go back and impact.
We are eligible for OPT extension also, right?
It should be able to be qualified.
But
yes.
actually, in the DHS portal, it is shown like, it is stated like, if a student who is on F1 has to willing to apply for STEM extension, the university should be accredited at the time they apply for extension. So they may be eligible for master cap according to them, but they are not eligible for extension. In your view.
For the OPT STEM extension.
Yeah.
Why? We have accreditation up to 2018 May, right?
But no, we don't have accreditation right now. We have chance to get another accreditation by 2018 May.
So, we're trying to predict what USCIS is going to do in this situation, too. So, there's some things that we can't answer completely. And so, again, for that one, you may need to wait for some further guidance or contact ICE and see what their policy is.
To answer this question properly, August, right? The people who got out of college in August, they applied for their OPT on September, November. September, November. Think as September. In the worst case scenario, September. So September, if they are starting their OPT on September, so 2 months back they have to apply. Even they are applying on September, okay, the approval 2 months grace period. After that, from September, October, November, December, January, Feb, March, 6 months from there, or 8 months. It's not 2 years. College in the best case scenarios, we can think that we have 18 months grace period, and they fall under the category. We have all the rules and regulations in our favor in those 18 months. So September till September, and before 2 months apply, and then they have only 8 months or something. They don't have these 18 periods. They have only 8 months period with the college association. So if they are giving an extension for 2 years, they have only 8 months. So how, if that's gonna happen, in their thing, if that's gonna happen, even the guys who got December pass out are in a favor. So if I ask them the same question, they don't have an answer. And nobody had an answer.
We're going to the same thing and the same question.
It's just
so.
it's not just them. It's just that everyone who are graduated this time are having the same issues. If they get a benefit, hopefully, I really wish they get, everybody is getting the same. So if they are not getting it, then it's an issue.
Yeah, let me just, again, we can look again at what it says, and it indicates that students attending an ACIS accredited school who wish to participate in STEM OPT in the future need to take some action, according to them. So, again, they really have not been so clear, even on this ICE site. I would need to contact them. Like I said, I just found out about this late last week. I'm studying this. I'm trying to figure out exactly and grasp the whole concept here. But my understanding here is, we need to follow up with them and see what exactly they're going to do in this particular situation.
So if we are approaching them individually, we are getting no answers.
Yeah.
I already did. I mailed them. I didn't try to call them.
ICE?
Yes. No. The Department of Education. Yes.
The DSO of the college.
No, but the DSO, they are basically trying to find out from SEVP. So they're trying to get clarity on something. You can approach them. They might probably get bombarded with so many messages and questions here that they're going to probably just wait until they're going to issue a policy from USCIS might issue a policy guidance on this. So, for the whole STEM thing, I wish I could have a more clear answer, but I don't think anyone could or does or will right now about getting that STEM extension for